The global financial crisis, you have read the papers, so I will not dwell too much on it, but it is unprecedented and is sure to have an adverse impact on South Africa. I must point out to you that we are not exposed to directly to the subprime lending that was seen in the United States. But the impact on South Africa is billed to arise as a consequence of indirect effects. And so a slowdown or a recession is going to have an adverse impact on countries purchasing commodities, and those countries purchasing commodities are purchasing them from South Africa, and therefore South African corporates that are associated with producing those commodities, such as the mining houses and so forth, their activities will slow down, and that will have an adverse impact on us. What has been happening, however, in the South African economy is that a large proportion of South African GDP is driven by the consumer, and there's been a slowdown in activities by the consumer over the last while. This arose because of increases in interest rates, tightening of monetary policy over the last while, where we saw an increase in interest rates by 50 basis points on 10 occasions since June 2006. That has had the effect of increasing bad debts, and we've had enormous provisions running through our income statement, in our case to the extent of 4.5 billion rand, reflecting the struggles and the challenges faced by the consumer. However, it's a tale of two cities. So the one city is a city represented by the consumer, who I guess is supine at the moment. But on the other hand, the second city is the city driven by gross fixed capital formation. A lot of investment is starting to take place. The government is billed to spend about 530 billion rand on several projects, ranging from the Gautrain to the preparations for 2010 to the refurbishment of bridges, roads, dams. The consequence of that is that corporate South Africa is investing on the back of that. The net result is that the contribution by gross fixed capital formation investment as a proportion of GDP is now at about 22%. It was about 17% not as long ago as 5 years ago, and is billed to be at about 24% in a short while. And lastly, there's the issue of fairness, because fairness also matters, I do think, in financial institutions, particularly those operating on the African continent. And for me, the Aristotelian principles of redistributive and corrective justice are fundamental in how we think about our organization. And so turning to social innovation. So there you are, a financial institution committed to maximizing profits and long-term shareholder wealth, but also attuned to the social issues of the day. It was interesting reading the New York Times this afternoon, where the editorial made the point that the Community Reinvestment Act is under attack, and that a representative from Iowa has suggested legislation to terminate the effect of the Community Reinvestment Act, the argument being that it is a large contributor to the advent of the subprime problem. Whatever the case may be, our own Community Reinvestment Act was what we call the Financial Sector Charter, which was entered into in South Africa not as a consequence of legislation, but was done voluntarily by the players in the financial services sector. And so, to address the social and economic inequalities of South Africa that I referred to earlier, with a firm view to dealing with country risk and industry risk and corporate risk, the beta of our own bank, we applied our minds to taking the lead in implementation of the Financial Sector Charter. And the principles under the Financial Sector Charter are, in effect, that we should be lending to disadvantaged communities, we should be extending lending to low-income housing, to black SME, small to medium enterprises, to agricultural concerns, we should be procuring from black institutions, we should increase the number of black managers, not just in junior management, but in middle and senior and executive management, that the commitment to do that has had a remarkable effect on the Standard Bank. A study done by our economics department on the socio-economic impact of our commitment to the Financial Sector Charter is that from 2002 till last year, We had made a contribution of 25.8 billion rands to gross domestic product. We'd created 254,362 job opportunities. We had contributed 52 billion rands to capital formation. We had contributed to 10,715 educators, and we had contributed to 10,305 additional low-income houses, and we had created 7.2 billion rands to government coffers in the nature of tax. At the moment, it is no surprise that China has become Africa's third largest trade partner after the United States. It is estimated that by the end of this year, trade between the continent, Sino-Africa trade will be at or about $100 billion. The trend is attributed to escalating shipments of natural resources to China, and at the same time, goods manufactured in China are increasingly sought after by African consumers. Furthermore, South Africa has got a strong relationship with China, having entered into this deal with them in the late 1990s. You will also recall that Japan is a huge trading partner of South Africa's, and trade here is structured along north-south lines, with Japan importing raw materials from us, whereas we import manufactured goods from them. We trade extensively with Asian countries, and furthermore, South Africa trades extensively with the rest of the continent. Trade relations with African states is fundamental for both political and economic reasons to South Africa. And investment, foreign direct investment from South Africa into the rest of the continent and from the continent into South Africa is burgeoning. South Africa also participates in a number of preferential trade relationships, both on a regional basis and on a bilateral basis. Just this Saturday, the New York Times reported that experts say that in the last few years, South Africa has become one of the continent's biggest sources of FDI. The United States and South Africa also trade extensively, and indeed, the United States is South Africa's biggest trading partner. Whilst trade between South Africa and Canada is small, it too is growing quite fast. All of this trade and investment has to be intermediated and enter the banks. I would submit to you that because we are represented on the ground, not just in South Africa, but on the rest of the African continent, we are uniquely positioned to intermediate relations, both trade and foreign direct investment, and also between the African continent, Asia, the Americas, South America, and the rest of the world. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, these are challenging times, but I do believe that they too shall pass. South African banks aspire for world best practice in general management, in risk management, and indeed in morals and ethics. The South African economy is likely to continue even though the consumer is flat on his back, because investment is growing fast and is likely to continue growing fast, and therefore the tale of two cities. The social imperatives in South Africa are addressed as part of risk management, and the Financial Sector Charter, a unique innovation, has taken us a long way in this regard. In intra and extra Africa trade and investment, we have a great opportunity, and we'd welcome the strengthening of relationships with you. We are well positioned to help in this respect. Thank you for this opportunity.